It is September 22nd, 2021, and we are looking at Solomon's Song of Songs, chapter 6, verses 4 through 10. In the previous sections, the Shulamite woman had a dream. In her dream, she was desired by her husband, and then he was at a door, unable to come in the rain. When she awoke, she found that he had gone. She went hunting for him and was beaten. And then she asked the virgins of the city to find him for her and described Solomon, her husband, to the virgins of the city. And then the virgins speak of how great the love between Solomon and the Shulamite woman, his wife, how great the love between the two of them is, which leads to where we presently are. Finally, after all this sections of him not speaking, Solomon speaks. So the wife must have found him with the help of the young women, the virgins of the city. And here is what he says in 6, verse 4 through 10. You are beautiful, my friend, like Tirzah, comely like Jerusalem, terrifying like bannered troops. Turn your eyes away from me because they terrify me. Your hair is like a flock of goats, which leap down from Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of ewes, which come up from the washing, all of which bear twins, and a bereaved one is not among them. Your mouth is like a slice of pomegranate behind your veil. 60 are they, queens, and 80, concubines, and virgins without number. One is she, my dove, my perfect one. One is she to her mother. Pure is she to her who bore her. Daughters see her and call her blessed. Queens and concubines see her and praise her. Who is this who is looking down like dawn, beautiful like the moon, pure like the sun, terrifying like bannered troops? So we go back to verse 4. So verses 4 through about verse 7a are a repetition of what Solomon has said about the young, before he was married, his young fiancée. And now that she is his wife and his wife of some time, he is repeating this theme, this idea that she is to him the most beautiful, the most perfect, the most wonderful of women. Though she has aged, she has not lost any of her beauty in his sight. In fact, perhaps it has increased. She is his wife, and he loves her more fully than ever. And so it starts with this idea about her beauty and her comeliness and how she is terrifying like bannered troops. Now, terrifying is an interesting term to use when you're talking about the beauty of your wife. Sometimes wives can be terrifying, but we should put this more in context of the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And when you start by fearing the Lord, knowing the power and the awesomeness of God, knowing the wonder of God, fearing for his lack of presence with you, fearing that he might go away, all of these things, when you look at fear in its proper context, not a fear of the devil, a fear of the unknown, a fear of those things which God says are in his hands, but when you look at it as, this is one whom I want to be near, one who I never want to lose, one who I want to treat with proper honor and to treat in a manner where I give to them what they deserve, not in the sense here in the case of a human that we deserve great goodness or our spouse deserves, but in the sense of these are the promises I have given to them. So I fear not completing my promises, completing to the best of my ability those things that would honor and that would cherish, that would protect them. Okay? So his fear for her is like an entire army. You know, she's that important. that valuable. So she's beautiful, my friend again, uplifted to the same status, like Tirzah, a beautiful country. She's comely, like Jerusalem, that city on the hill where Solomon built the great temple and his great palace, and it has been really made into a beautiful place. And she has been had beauty put upon her, and he feels for her such honor, such love, that it terrifies him that he should ever, not be worthy of her. Okay, if we look at this, Christ has done this for the church. He has put beauty upon us. He sees us still as this beauty. Even now, after many years of our being his children, after an eternity of future our being his brothers and sisters, we are still beautiful. And he still acts in a manner where he does everything necessary to save us. Okay? So it says in 5, turn your eyes away from me because they terrify me. Terrify here, again, we don't want to look at running away, but that your eyes so much possess me, your eyes so much envelop me. When I look into them, my life is in your hands. My times and my days are your possession. That you have become such a part of me and I have become such a part of you that I can't break away. Okay? That's kind of the idea here of the turn your eyes away from me because they terrify me. Your hair is like a flock of goats which leap down from Gilead. We talked about this earlier, how it flows like goats jumping down a hill. So it's a beautiful, wavy, curly, bouncy hair. Your teeth are like a flock of ewes which come up from the washing. So their bodies glistening so white and glowing with the light of the water. So she has beautiful teeth. All of which bear twins, so there's no gaps. I got a gap or two in my teeth. And a bereaved one is not among them. Again, no gaps. You're not missing teeth. You have your wonderful full set of teeth, right? Which in certain points in history is certainly pretty amazing. Okay. Your mouth is like a slice of pomegranate behind your veil. The veil is kept so that the person remains modest before other men and then lifted for her husband so that he can see the beauty of her face, so that they can be the ones together who share this wonderful special situation. Pomegranate is a passion fruit. It's very red, very bright, so red for the wonderful flow of blood. Women now, red up with lipstick, but he's saying you're just naturally, or maybe I guess makeup, but you are looking very alive, very full of vigor. Vigor would normally be used in a male context, so maybe there's a different word I should use for a female who looks very alive. But passionate, alive, and demure. All of those things. So again, this is a description of Solomon speaking of his beloved wife, Christ speaking to his beloved church. A church that is full of life. A church that is at the same time demure. A church where all good things are raised up by Jesus. It's a description of how God views us and how God, more importantly, makes us, changes us to be this beautiful bride. All right, now we get to kind of the interesting part, I think, of this section. The part where we're going, wait a second. Verse 8. 60 are they, queens, and 80 concubines, and virgins without number. So now you're going from the people closest to Solomon, his queens. Queen in the societies of this time is a wife. She has rights. Normally she comes from a high upper class family, perhaps nobility or royalty, though using those terms back then might, that's kind of European terms. But anyway, But if she were to be divorced by Solomon, she would have monies and lands and rights. So that's what a queen is. And Solomon certainly had 60 queens. Later on, he has quite a few more. Okay? So here he's saying that 60 queens, 80 concubines. Now, a concubine is often someone who gets married by a ruler because he's making a treaty, or because she's being given as a gift to kind of make him feel good toward the people who are bringing her as a gift. So she has no rights. She's basically a slave, but she's a wife of that ruler. She is normally put into the same area to live with the other concubines, and kept away from other men, that sort of thing. So we've got 60 queens, 80 concubines, and virgins without number. Those are those who are not wives of Solomon, but are the good women of the land, are the people who get mentioned earlier and later as rejoicing in this marriage between Solomon and the Shulamite woman, because it makes Solomon happy and they love him. He's a great king. He has been a great lord over the land. So we have this group. The closest group, the queens. Next closest group, the concubines. To the furthest from Solomon group, the virgins. Okay? And these are basically the good women of the land of Israel. These are the people who are in a right relationship with Solomon. Doesn't include wives of other men, notice. Just wives of Solomon and those who are not attended by other men. Okay? It says, "One is she, my dove, my perfect one. One is she to her mother, pure is she to her who bore her." All right. So out of this 60, 80, and infinite numbers, the Shulamite woman stands alone. She is unique, and unique in his sight. She is, as he says, his perfect one, his dove. She alone holds this position to Solomon. Position's not the right word. Holds this relationship with Solomon. Is this one with him, with Solomon. Okay? And in her mother's sight, she also is unique. She's the one who honors her mother and who has a special relationship with her and takes care of her and tends over her in her old age. Pure is she to her who bore her. She's the one who now does what is good, not what is wrong, for her mother and for the people. Now, if we take this now away from Solomon and the Shulamite woman, I think that understanding there is pretty easy. She's his ultimate woman, his ultimate wife, his ultimate, and she is deserving of this because she keeps and honors her heritage, as well as being the beautiful dove of Solomon. We take this to the church. The church is Christ's bride, pure and holy. He has pulled us out from the people of the land and made us his own. Now, this includes all Christians, and this could include anyone in the future who becomes a Christian, and he would that all people become Christians. But he's saying, in God's sight, this is it, right? This is the one. This is why the world exists. This is why Christ came and died, so that this church could be his bride. And others look upon individuals in the church, other members of the church, look on others in the church, and we should see each individual in this way, ourselves included, as the church that Christ loves, that Christ died for, so that we could live forever with him. And when we do this, we're showing respect for the people who came before, for those who taught and trained us, for those who, and when they look upon us as church, as those who are part of Christ, who attend to the Word of God, who come to his sacraments, and then who share his love out into the world, We are the pure ones, and they look at us and they're proud. It makes my mom and my dad happy that I am a pastor who's sharing God's word. It makes me happy that I have children who are staying in the church and who love Jesus and know Jesus. Okay? It goes on. Daughters see her and call her blessed. Queens and concubines see her and praise her. So now we move from her mother praising her to daughters praising her to queens and concubines praising her. So now we're getting from the closest person to her to the next closest person to the furthest from her, from the church, okay? Because she has been glorified by Solomon, and because she's living out this glory, now she's receiving the praise of society. And they are saying, how beautiful is this Shulamite. She is properly the one who is at Solomon's side as his most beloved wife. Which is how the world that knows of God looks at the church. When we see the church, and we see how much Christ loves it, and then how it responds to Christ's love, we properly say, what a wonderful thing it is that church is doing these things and showing the love of Christ so well. What a wonderful thing it is that this pastor is doing these things and showing the love of Christ well. What a wonderful thing it is that these youth are doing the things of Christ and showing the love of Christ so well. Okay? Which leads to the final verse. Who is this who is looking down like dawn, beautiful like the moon, pure like the sun, terrifying like bannered troops? Who is this wife of Solomon? Who is this bride of Christ? This bride of Christ, notice, looking down like the dawn, is showing the light of Christ, the sun. Beautiful like the moon, reflecting the glory of the sun. Pure like the sun, has in them the way of living, purity, the cleanliness, the holiness that is God's. And terrifying like bannered troops, going back to our terrifying before. Again, when you show the radiance of God, you see it stuns people, it's so radiant. As it stunned the disciples, Peter, James, and John up on the Mount of Transfiguration. So it stunned the Roman guards when Christ came in glory from the tomb. And now the church is radiating out that same stunning beauty, that same holiness, that same sanctification. Now the Shulamite woman is showing the same sort of glory that Solomon has, his friend, his lover. They look on her and she looks like him, a queen, like the king. One who you don't want to raise your eyes up to. You want to cast your eyes down because she is so queenly and you don't feel like you're deserving to be in her presence. And yet that is what happened, is the Shulamite woman has been raised to this greatness. The church has been raised to this greatness to be in glory like unto Christ. Shulamite like unto Solomon. So that's where it closes. Solomon speaks of the wonders of this wife who he's had for time now, for a time. Christ speaks of the wonders of the church that he has created for a time. And how that wonder then goes out into the world to bring about praise and accolades for the church, which really points back as praise and accolades for Christ. Right, which points back, praise and accolade to the Father. You're going to run that through. And so the church bears the glory of Christ to the world. And we'll close there for today.